Hey, I'm Jake, and today I'm going to explain the idea of leave no trace, which is a core idea to hiking and backpacking because it's pretty much the guidelines of ethical camping. And so pretty much it sets out different rules to follow while you're hiking to, one, preserve the natural beauty of the great outdoors for all those to come after, and then also to help protect you as the hiker in the great outdoors from wildlife and weather and just other hazards that there are. As I go through these concepts, just try to keep them in mind next time you're hiking and maybe be a little more conscious of how we're treating the great outdoors. Anyway, let's get on to the different concepts. So, the first concept of leave no trace is plan ahead and prepare. And now this concept could be its own video, and eventually it will be. I'll make a video that'll outline the whole trip planning process and go into detail about everything you'll need to think ahead and do and pack, all of it. But for now, the biggest things are maps and weather. So you want to have a map of the topography and the route that you're going to be traveling through, as well as downloading the weather conditions for the days that you're going to be out. And this is just going to help make sure that, one, you stay on the trail, and then also that you don't have any unexpected weather, no storms or anything are going to hit you out on the trail. So other things to think about would also be water supply and food supply. So you want to think about food, one, to make sure that you have enough for your trip, but then to also think about how much waste you're going to create and bringing it back. Is it going to be easy, or is the waste itself going to take up a lot of space in your backpack? As well as thinking about places like where you can refill your water bottles. And if you make sure you got your maps and then your food and your water and your campsites all planned out, you should be good. So the second concept of leave no trace is to travel and camp on durable surfaces. And now, depending on where you're at, you're either going to do one of two ways. So if you're in a high use area, meaning that there's already predetermined trails and campsites and all that, what you're going to want to do is continue to use the trails and concentrate your impact to an area that's already been impacted. So that means stay on the trails, don't cut corners, don't go creating new trails. And also for campsites, it's camp where there's a designated campsite or other people have already camped at before. And same with having fires, like contain them to a fire ring. Don't go building new rings or anything like that. Just use existing fire rings, campsites, and trails. So that's what you do if you're in a high impact area. Now, if you're in a low impact area, which would be like in a backcountry setting or somewhere where there's less people coming to visit, there probably won't be trails, might not even be designated campsites. So here in a low impact area, you're going to want to disperse your impact out on the landscape. So if you're hiking in a group, don't hike all together in a single file line, but instead spread out and disperse your impact across the landscape as to not create any trail at all. And if you're going to camp in an area like this, make sure that you're moving camp every day so as not to create a bare spot of grass or any evidence that someone had been camping there. And then same with like fire rings, like try not to go creating them. Hopefully you'll have like a small stove or something like that to heat up your water. And so you won't really be leaving any fire impact in the backcountry. So you've got two different ways, whether you're hiking in a high impact or a low impact area, as far as it goes for either staying on your trail or maybe spreading out and not creating a trail. So the third concept of leave no trace is dispose of waste properly. And in the backpacking community, there's a common saying, it's pack it in, pack it out. Meaning whatever trash you bring in with you, you then bring out. And so anytime you break camp before you leave, it's always good to do an inspection of the campground just to pick up any small pieces of trash that may have fallen out of your pack or anything that you left behind while you were making dinner, any of that. And then Also, with disposing of waste properly, we got to talk about poop. So anytime you poop in the woods, you need to poop in a cat hole. And that's just pretty much a hole that's somewhere around 6 inches deep. And you poop in the hole, and then you can put your TP in the hole, and then you just shovel dirt back on top of the hole. But you want to really make sure that the hole is 6 inches deep minimum. And that's because animals can smell your poop once it's in the ground, and if it's too shallow, they're going to come and they're going to dig it up and get into it, and that can help spread disease, wildlife. So we don't want to do any of that. So make sure you dig your hole deep enough and cover your poop. So the fourth concept of leave no trace is leave what you find. And that pretty much means just observe the natural beauty of the world without taking any of it home with you or altering it by cutting a tree for firewood or anything like that. Just observe it and try to preserve the sense of discovery and beauty in nature for those that come after you. Because if we all go out into the woods and break a branch to get some firewood, then soon enough there'd be all these branchless trees out there, and that just wouldn't be as fun or pretty to look at. So leave it, look, but don't touch. And this also goes for any kind of artifacts, so arrowheads, pottery, anything of that nature. Leave it in place, because in a lot of states it's illegal to remove those artifacts, and so if you're caught with any of them, you can face some pretty hefty fines. So again, leave what you find, because there's always going to be people coming in after, and they're going to want to see and discover everything that you did.
I hope you're enjoying the video and learning a thing or two about leave no trace. If you are, hit the thumbs up. And if you have any questions or comments at all, leave them down below and I'll get to them as quickly as possible. If you're enjoying the content, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and make sure that you click the little bell icon next to the subscribe button and switch it to all. That way you'll get a notification every time I post a new video and you won't miss out on any of my new content.
So the fifth concept of leave no trace is to minimize your campfire impact. And before you even think about having a campfire, you need to check to see if there's a fire ban for wherever you're camping. Because if there is, then you shouldn't have a fire at all, because it means the conditions are prone for fire and wildfires to take off. So if there's a fire ban, don't have a fire. But if there is no fire ban and you're going to have a campfire, go ahead and use the fire rings that are already provided. Don't create new fire rings for your fire. And then it's best to keep your fires relatively small. The bigger the fire, just the more disruptive and the more fuel it's going to consume, which can just lead you to breaking branches, and it's best to avoid all that. So when you're looking for fuel for your fire, it's best to use dead and downed wood that's just already on the ground and can easily be picked up. You don't want to be cutting down trees and just creating eyesores for other campers. And whenever you're breaking camp in the morning, make sure to check the fire, make sure that it's out, put water on the coals if necessary, stir them around, just make sure that there's no more heat left in the fire. So the sixth concept of leave no trace is respect wildlife. And this is important for the animals just as much as it is for yourself, because there are animals out there that can cause you pretty severe harm. If they feel threatened, they can charge you and attack you. So it's best to minimize loud noises and quick movements when you encounter wildlife, and really just give them space. Like, don't get too close. If you see an animal, it's best just to let them go on their own way. Don't try to startle them or shoo them off. Just let them do their thing, and you hang back for a minute, and once they've moved on, then you can continue on down the trail. And then it's also important to secure your food properly so that you don't have bears wandering into your campsite or little chipmunks eating through all your trail mix. And then also it's best not to feed the animals, because that can make them reliant upon human food, and that's not good for the wildlife. So respect them when you're out there and give them their space. So last but not least, the seventh concept of leave no trace is to respect others. And so while you're on the trail, you'll often encounter other hikers. And say hey, be polite, strike up a little conversation, but if they want their own space, respect that too, and just let them have it, because we're all out here in the great outdoors for our own reasons. And some people like to talk and strike up a conversation, while others, they just want to be in their thoughts and on their own. So just kind of read the situation, but be in smaller groups, because larger groups can just be more rambunctious and loud, and it's just easier to be more respectful of others in a smaller group. And then also noise, it's best to just let the sounds of nature prevail. So let the wind blowing through the trees and the birds singing their songs, let all that be the sounds that people hear while they're hiking, not some music that you're blasting on your speaker. Like, that's just not what we're out here for. And then also respect people's privacy, and just when you're setting up camps, it's best to camp away from others and just spread yourself out so that you're not just overrunning and just all piling up kind of in an area and everyone's getting into each other's campsites. And it's just better to spread out and respect each other's campsite and privacy, and just be a kind person when you're on the trail. That's really the most important thing. All right, so now you know the 7 concepts of leave no trace. And I hope you can understand why I find them so important, because these really are the ways that we can minimize the impact that we leave when we go hiking or backpacking, and just try to preserve the natural beauty of the great outdoors for all those to come after us. So next time you're out hiking, just try to remember, leave no trace. Pack it in, pack it out. Until next time, keep on trekking.